Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of Theo Hayez from Belgium. He went missing in late May of 2019. He took a gap year from his schooling to go to Australia and to a place called Byron Bay. He had all intentions to come back and continue his schooling and stuff like that. He had there was no sign of him wanting to disappear, is what I'm trying to say. He seemed to be having a good time as well. Even though he had booked a room to himself, he made a lot of friends in the hostel that he was staying at, called the Wake Up Hostel. He spent some time going through nature over there, just having a good time. Like I said, he made a bunch of friends. He was having a great time actually, and him and his friends from the hostel were going to a bar in the evening of May the 31st. They took the shuttle bus to first of all buy a bottle of rosé, and then they took the shuttle bus back to go to a bar called Cheeky Monkeys, which apparently has a reputation in the area. Although that's not really the issue, I do believe, in this particular case. Around 11 p.m. of that night, he got escorted out of the business by somebody who worked there because they apparently felt that he was becoming too intoxicated, even though some people who were there didn't think that was really the case, while others were like, yeah, it's pretty clear, I guess he needs to go home and lie down or something. Anyway, so they put him outside and he just kind of wandered off in the opposite direction of where he was supposed to be going. Because if he wanted to go back to the hostel, he really just needed to walk 20 minutes down a particular road. And apparently, according to locals, all you gotta do is follow the lights and the neon signs and you'll be there pretty easily, even at night. But he went in another direction, and he actually spent some time walking around town, going through all kinds of different streets, taking some detours, eventually crossing a field somewhere, and then leaving town. I think that is the east side. If the map was in the right direction, that would be the east side of town. And then he went through a forest, and apparently he went really fast through the forest. Like the journey that he made, they drew that based on the GPS coordinates, but maybe the GPS coordinates were a little bit off, because in the direction that it appeared that he was traveling through the forest, if you look a little bit further north, there's a road that goes pretty much in that exact way, that direction as well. So maybe he was traveling by car, maybe he got a ride from somebody. Either way, he ended up on Cozy Corner Beach, where he didn't need to be at all at night. Most people didn't go there at night either. Throughout the night, they apparently were able to see that he did check Google Maps several times, while also sending multiple messages to people that he knew. The final one being a message simply saying thank you to his stepsister, and that was about 10 minutes to 1 in the morning. Also sent from that location. Now, the working theory is that he actually wandered up to the cliffs and fell off. Now, he wasn't reported missing until about June 6th, I believe, which is 3 days after he was supposed to catch his bus back home. The hostel didn't immediately report him missing because it's a hostel full of young people from all over the world, and it's not unusual for somebody to miss their checkout dates or go wandering off or something along those lines. So initially they didn't think anything was particularly wrong, but there was a report made on the 6th. There's really no indication of where he may have been beyond the 31st, except for one report from a woman who was driving around at some point. I'm not sure if that was the same day or shortly after. Kind of missed what time she made the call, but she was driving down the road in that area, and there was a man standing on the road who looked to be somewhere in his 30s, and another one on the ground, and she drove up to them because they were on the road, and they tried to flag her down, but because she didn't feel safe to get out, because that is something that robbers will potentially do, like pretend that there's like a emergency scenario so that you'll stop and get out, and they can like carjack you or whatever. So she didn't feel safe, she kept driving, but she did actually make a report. And then later, when she found out that he was missing and she saw some images of him walking out of the bar, she was like, yeah, the guy laying on the ground did actually have a dark top and light pants on, so maybe that was him. That was a potential sighting, but not much information about that whole situation and who those two people were, if that was Theo, and if so, who that 30s person was who was standing next to him. No idea. But today we have the tarot over here to try and ask some questions and see if we can get any answers. We're going to start with the vice versa deck, which is a deck that has 2 sides to every card, which is always very interesting, so you can get multiple angles from a story. And we're going to continue asking questions with the Muse deck, which is this one, and this one has a lot of very dream-like imagery, which can also be very inspirational. It's even called Aid of Inspiration right here, so that's great. Anyway, without much further ado, I'm just going to start shuffling the cards, and as soon as I have enough on the screen, we'll take a look. So let's just get started. Okay, I think we've got enough to get started. Now, I see in the top row that there's a lot of people facing away. We start off with the Ace of Wands over here. I'm going to grab you. Now, this is the only one that's currently got no people on it, really. This is, I think, the idea to go out and start their own little adventure, maybe. Maybe they just weren't ready to go home yet, because we see here everybody walking away, like I said. I feel like this is the idea that he got to just go out there and explore, even though it was almost in the middle of the night. We have the Seven of Swords in reverse and the back side. And this looks like the Page of Swords also reversed. Now let me grab these two real quick. So we had a new idea, a new initiative to go out and do stuff, but it may be that he was misinformed, and perhaps not even intentionally misinformed. This almost looks like somebody got robbed, but this thief doesn't even know that that's the result of his actions. Like he unintentionally made somebody a victim of their actions, perhaps. By which I mean to say, maybe somebody put an idea in his head or told him a story about something, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna go and find this thing, I'm gonna go out there and check it out. The sword suit is definitely of the mind, it's thinking, it's speaking, so he may have overheard something, which might be why both of these are facing the other direction. So maybe he heard something from somebody else who was at the hostel, about, oh, this is a great spot here or there, you need to go check it out in that time because it's always so peaceful or whatever. Because I noticed that a lot of these cards have starry nights in the background. There's this one, and then there's Will, there's that one, there's this one, this one. This one in particular is very interesting, but we'll get to that eventually. But so yeah, I think that he decided incorrectly to go and check this out with the ace over here. And perhaps he even took the directions incorrectly from the start, because the page is facing away. Now the Page of Swords, even though it is mostly a communication suit, it is also, like I said, of the mind, and it can be related to making plans. The Page of Swords in particular is very head over heels. As you can see, he's flying through the air without a care in the world. I think this is them hurrying off because they thought that they knew what they were doing. There is the World reversed next to that. Next to the reversed Hangman. The World is facing the other way. I mean, it's not reversed as in it's upside down, but it's facing the other direction. Like I said, the Hangman is reversed and also facing the other direction. And we have the Six of Cups facing the right direction. So I'm going to grab these three real quick. So the World facing away kind of suggests to me that he thought he was going to find a seclusion or a seclusionary spot that not many people knew, and that might be the type of thing he may have been looking for, because I do believe somebody said that he really enjoyed communing with nature on his trip. So maybe he was like, oh, if I can get to that space, I can be all by myself, I can stare at the stars, as you can see, that are surrounding the world here, and it'll be great, and that type of thing. I'll have new insights maybe. because of this new perspective being suggested by the Hanged Man here, which is something that is usually his domain, new perspectives. Once again, a starry night, but there's also two people on the other side that seem to be discussing something without actually noticing him. And I think that's once again a reference to the fact that he overheard somebody else talking about it. And if you look at the card, there's a lot of stuff going on this side. If you look at the normal side over here, we've just got the Hanged Man, and he appears to be hanging there voluntarily. And if we turn it back the way it was, or at least turn it around, there's a lot more here. There is, of course, the two men that I was already talking about, but there's also some type of harvesting tool here. And there's a snake kind of looking at him like he's about to bite him or something. So perhaps this new perspective that he's looking for will turn around to bite him because he did not check if there was anything else going on. Also, this thing is probably going to be used to cut down the rope. So he had the access to that. Actually, no, he didn't. If you look at this card over here, normally the Hangman hangs by his own volition, but if you look at the hands, they've been tied together. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's kind of difficult to see on this card, but his hands are tied together. The tool for cutting down the Hangman is leaning against the pole on the left there, and then there is the snake on the right. So maybe whatever he managed to hear from these people or from somebody else, or maybe glean on a website or something, was not quite correct. And even though they did not intend to tell him that specifically, he did actually take that advice without thinking too much about it, which led to a misadventure, it appears to be the case. And we also have here the Six of Cups, which is more of a childhood memory or some type of familiarity with certain people. I feel like the Six of Cups here is reminding him, or was reminding him, of something that he used to do as a kid, maybe. Like maybe this was almost nostalgic in a certain way. Maybe he's gone through forests or other places in the middle of the night before, or something along those lines, or has been thinking about doing that as a kid. Like, oh, this is the big great adventure that I was always dreaming about, that type of thing. So maybe something along those lines was going through his mind as he was going down to the beach. Then on the second row, we see the Five of Swords and the Eight of Pentacles and the Star reverse. So the Five of Swords is somebody defeating somebody verbally, mentally, perhaps as well, outthinking them, outsmarting them. And I think maybe this situation outsmarted him because it was not quite what he was expecting. We see the Eight of Pentacles here, which may be them trying to work really hard to fix this. Maybe also because he didn't want people to think that he was in trouble or something along those lines, like thinking that he could still pull himself out of this. Maybe even sending messages. I get the feeling like he was maybe sending messages to keep people calm and also himself calm in that sense. Like doing very normal things, sending people very mundane messages, making the situation feel less threatening. That's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, so he was probably working very hard to try and pull himself out of it because he probably didn't believe that anything bad could happen, even though it beat him, the whole situation. We have the Star reverse. Like I said, I found that very interesting, particularly because he was possibly looking at the stars over there. We see a lot of water there. We also see a crane flying in the background. Now, cranes are often viewed as signs of mortality, or immortality rather, long life, particularly in the East. And perhaps he was so enamored by the whole scenario that he did not quite follow the right star. That's what I'm trying to say here. Even though he was working very hard to try and fix the situation, the star that he ended up following led down the wrong path, it seems as though, because we see here the Six of Pentacles in reverse. Now, the Six of Pentacles normally a charity type of thing, somebody being charitable, getting a sudden windfall. Ooh, the cards are really turned. Hang on, let me just correct this real quick. My camera angle is really strange today. I'm gonna have to figure out how this happened. Anyway, but we can still see all the cards, so it's good for now. Like I said, the Six of Pentacles is a charitable type of card normally. It does give the image, particularly in this particular case, of somebody lording over people because they are charitable, but it's in reverse, so I don't feel like this is the correct type of charity that you would want in a situation such as this. It is followed by the Ten of Cups, which is normally like a very happy time. And the final card that we have in this lineup is the Two of Pentacles in reverse. So that is a disbalance right there. Let me grab all three. So I think that he encountered something or someone that made him feel like everything was gonna be okay. But then we end up with this out of balance card. So whatever he thought was happening that was going his way turned out to be not quite what he had in mind. So that short moment of happiness and, oh, I fixed it, I'm fine. It was short-lived, like I said, and it turned into a very quick switch in the situation. This might be the moment where something happened that was irreversible. So he was initially trying to work really hard to get back to where he was supposed to be, like as shown by the Google Maps searches. And then he thought that he had the answer, and that turned out not to be the answer after all, sadly. So what happened to him next, though? Because this only really seems to suggest that he was out there trying to follow some lead to this great perfect location that he would really enjoy. And for the most part, I see only really almost childlike wonder here and just going off on a little adventure. And then on the second row, we see the realization that things are not quite what they had in mind, and actually taking a very sharp turn there on the end. So let's see what else we can see about the situation, because so far we're not really seeing much in the sense of what really happened to him, mostly the mindset that he was in up until the point where he disappeared. But let's see if we can find anything about what happened after that, anything along those lines. I've got two cards here that popped out right away. Eight of Materials once again, and the Hermit. So we have again the Eight of Pentacles, because the Eight of Materials, or the materials suit in this deck, are the Pentacles. So we have Eight of Pentacles is back, and the Hermit over here. The Hermit is somebody who goes somewhere to try and get some insight, usually associated with going into a house or someplace inward anyway, to try and get some insight that way. Meditating, secluding themselves in a certain location. In this case, the location is outdoors in some type of desert. So they may still at this point be thinking that they can get to this place that was so secluded that he could maybe commune with nature even more. Maybe he really wanted to sit somewhere and admire the night sky, or maybe had a plan to just sit somewhere all night and watch the dawn, something along those lines. I'm also drawn, by the way, to look at the previous deck that I just put aside, because this card is laying on top of that. This is the Moon in reverse, so maybe he was actually thinking that he could maybe glean some secrets or something along those lines. He is probably a little bit intoxicated, so perhaps in this state he thought, I can go someplace and really delve deep into the secrets of the universe by just observing perhaps the sunset or something along those lines, because you can kind of see the sunset in the background there. There's light on the horizon, even though the moon is still in the sky. So he may have thought that he could look beyond the veil a little bit if he could just stay out there long enough in this one secluded spot where he could see everything that he ever wanted of the night sky and the ocean and everything else together. So I think that he was at this point, even though things did not turn out quite the way he wanted them to be, he was still thinking that he had a chance to do something really special or to see something really special. So let's see what came after that. So at this point, he's no longer able to use the charity that he thought was given by the Six of Pentacles over there that Harmony had left. Or at least he lost something. Maybe he just lost something at this point. Maybe he was feeling very harmonious because of the Ten of Cups down here, but he lost something valuable. But that didn't stop his search. That's what it's starting to look like over here, because we're looking at Hermit mode, meditating, and perhaps trying to still get to that one place, like I said. Next card we have is Temperance in reverse, so he was not thinking too clearly in this case. Temperance is normally a card that has like a balance meaning to it. You gotta make sure that your body and mind are in balance, your spirit and your heart and all that sort of thing. Also be careful, I guess, things, particularly because we're seeing the moon here, different phases of the moon. Like certain things just need to go through certain steps in order to be able to be completed properly, and perhaps it being in reverse shows that he was trying to take shortcuts and not quite being very careful about it. That one. You? Okay. This one first. We have the Knight of Inspiration. That is the Knight of Wands, who tends to be very fiery, and perhaps he got very enthusiastic because of whatever he thought he was going to be reaching, which also kind of matches with the reverse Temperance over there, so he's not being very careful. As a matter of fact, he was very gung-ho at this point. Almost like spurred on by something, or feeling like there was no way back, or something that he really, really wanted to achieve. Again, we have the moon, and it's in reverse, so whatever he thought he was going to be able to see was still hidden. So maybe he actually did glean some secrets that he thought he would be able to uncover, because the moon in reverse does show that there are certain things that are lit up by the full moon, things that may otherwise not have been revealed. Oh. Okay, we got two of them. That one knocked a couple of cards out, but this one is the Wheel in reverse. Okay, so this is the turn for the worse, quite literally. So he found out a few things. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily the reason why he ended up in trouble, but definitely things changed for the worse after that. And then we have the Awakening, which is, she looks kind of shocked, doesn't she? Like, oh, I'm suddenly able to see certain things. Yeah, this is a Judgment card, so this is a moment where things just completely change for a person. Judgment is usually seen as an angel with a trumpet coming down from the sky to raise people from the grave. It could also be, like it says at the bottom, a great awakening, suddenly a huge insight that changes everything. So this is a universal truth that he was being revealed, but it might not have been the truth that he wanted to see. I think it's one of those make or break moments where everything that you usually think about during your daily life doesn't matter anymore. Like, we tend to be stuck in our duality mindset, like, oh, I need to pay my bills, need to do this, need to do that, all this other stuff that's super important needs to happen. And this is more of a moment where all of these physical things don't matter. You don't care about bank accounts, you don't care about where your car keys are. It's just so important, so vital, that it basically washes the thoughts of all those mundane things away, and you're confronted with some actual truths. That's what this awakening seems to suggest. So this Wheel of Fortune definitely led to almost a shock to the system, I want to say. Then the Knight of Voices. This is the Knight of Swords, and it's in reverse. So Knight of Swords also tends to charge off, kind of like the Page of Swords back there, but this one with more speed because he is winged on a horse, and things go very quickly. Could be that this awakening that he just had led to even more frantic action and thoughts. Maybe his thoughts were racing at this point. Maybe he thought that he could think his way out of whatever issue he had found himself in. It does seem to be panic mode. Okay. And the next card just jumped out like this, so now we have Death over here. So we first of all have the frantic thoughts, and then something very permanently changed. The Hanged Man is back once again in reverse, and we have the Two of Cups upright. Alright, so also quite literally we are now in the ocean, which is interesting because that was the leading theory, that he may have fallen off the cliff. So I find it interesting that we're now looking at a card with a bunch of fish and people in the water after the Hanged Muse over here does appear to be falling. even though it's normally in reverse. It's the second time that we see the hanged man, or hanged person, I guess, in this case, hanged muse. This does seem to suggest the fall off the cliff, to be quite honest, because the death over there seems to be suggesting a permanent change, something that can't be undone. This might be finding yourself in a very tricky situation where you think you can maybe think your way out of it, but ultimately it's already too late, and then you find yourself in the ocean. Let's see if we can get any final cards on that. Okay. Nine of Inspiration on the side. This is the Nine of Wands, which is tired of fighting, which may suggest that they were tired of trying to fight the current. As you can see, the flowiness of the gown there seems to suggest as well some waves. There's even something that looks like smoke or waves in the background that may have something to do with that. And then we have the Three of Materials, which is the Three of Pentacles. And that's normally working together, but if you look at this card, it's almost like a stream. It's a braid, obviously, with flowers, etc. But normally Three of Pentacles is working together. This may suggest that he stopped fighting rather than trying to get out of there, because of the Nine of Wands as well is showing that he was really tired at some point. Tired of fighting, tired of struggling, and perhaps this is just giving in. Three of Pentacles no longer working against, but rather working with. Perhaps thinking that that might help. So this does seem to suggest, I believe they call that death by misadventure. That's what I'm seeing here anyway through the cards that we've had on the table so far. Having an idea, thinking that you know where you're going, and ultimately ending up in trouble and not really having a way back anymore, even though they tried very much to think of one with this Knight of Swords. A couple of times actually, with the Eight of Pentacles coming up twice, thinking that they were going to be able to find some way out if they worked hard enough, and at the same time still being tempted to try and get to a special spot. It looks as though they really wanted to commune perhaps with the stars from some great vantage point or something along those lines, is what it seems to be. So that is what I'm seeing for Theo Hayez. I hope you found that interesting. In any case, thanks for watching. If you could leave a like or a comment, that would be great. I hope to see you in another video, and bye bye for now.